Hello, it's Neil Ball, your online marketing coach from workwithneilball.com. I'm going to look at what is the perfect length for a tweet. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that's 140 characters. Well, you're actually wrong on that because if you think about it, when you tweet something, you'd probably want people to retweet it. And if somebody wants to retweet your tweet, which is 140 characters long, they're going to find it difficult. And for the lazy person who has to edit that tweet, they're just not going to bother. So 140 characters is definitely not the right answer. The other thing, the only exception to that and where it becomes more difficult is if you're trying to retweet a famous phrase or saying and it's quite a long saying and you're struggling to fit it in there, then it does become difficult to stick to this rule. But generally speaking, you do want to sort of work with this framework. So let me explain how this works now. Now I'm going to do this on the whiteboard behind me. So it's going to be a bit like going back to school, but I'll explain the numbers and you'll see the rationale behind it as I go through it. So for me, my Twitter handle or my Twitter ID is Neil D. Ball, which I'll just write down here. So that's which, as you can see, is 9 characters. So I'm going to write down the number of characters here. There, like that. Now, if you're going to do a retweet, then there are a number of other things that you need to accommodate in the retweet to allow this to get the perfect length for the tweet. So, for example, you need to allow for the @ which is 1 character. And you also need to allow for the RT and the space. So looking at all of those together, if you add them all up, then you've got a total of 9 plus 1 plus 3, which equals 13 characters. That's the total needed if your Twitter handle is 9 characters long. However, if your Twitter name is a different length to that, then you'll have to rework those numbers and put your Twitter handle length in there to get the perfect length of the tweet. Now, so for me, now what I need to do is, so you've got 13 characters there, which is what you want to allow for a retweet. So the next thing that I'd like to do with this is if we take 140 characters minus 13, you get 127 characters, which is going to allow for a retweet of your tweets. Now, the next thing that you need to think about is that some people would like to put maybe a hashtag on there, and that's where things get a little bit more complicated, because a hashtag can be any length depending on what somebody wants to put in there. So you need to make an allowance there for a hashtag. Now, you may decide that you want to knock off another 10 characters or something like that for a hashtag, which may be sufficient for most hashtags but might not be sufficient for all of them. So really, the answer to the original question, which what is the perfect length for a tweet, is that it's certainly got to be less than 140, and it's most likely got to be less than 127 in my case. In your case, it will be different. But really, what you want to do is make sure that your tweets deliver the message as efficiently as is possible in as fewer words as possible, to allow the possibility of people retweeting and putting hashtags on, and obviously that is what you're trying to achieve here. So just make them your tweets as good as you can. So really, that's that's the answer. There isn't really a straight answer, but it's certainly less than 140 characters. So hopefully that's been useful for you. Now, for more information on how I coach and how I train and some of the things that I do for my team, go to my website, which is www.workwithneilbald.com now. Again, that's www.workwithneilbald.com. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.